ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Om, may He protect us both. May we both enjoy together. May we both exert together. May our studies become brilliant. May we not be disputatious and hate each other. Om, peace, peace, peace. Welcome to the classes. So, we are continuing with the Bhagavad Gita. We all come into the world in a very ill-prepared way. The example is given in the Mahabharata of Abhimanyu, who was still in the womb of his mother Subhadra. And there Arjuna is reciting to Subhadra that there is a particular formation, war formation, where it's very difficult to go inside and extremely difficult to come out. And this war formation is called Chakravyuh. Only 4 people know about this Chakravyuh. One is Arjun, the other is Dronacharya, the third is Dronacharya's son Ashwathama, and the fourth is Krishna. Only 4 people. So he is explaining to Subhadra how you should go in and how you should come out through the formation. Just general talk. And since he's a warrior, he can't talk to Subhadra anything else except arts of fighting. And he explains it beautifully to her how to get in. As he's explaining how to get out, somebody calls him and he disappears. So Abhimanyu gets up, is born, grows, and in the wartime, Kurukshetra wartime, he tells that he knows how to get in. That time his father was not there. His father was taken away somewhere else by Krishna. He says to his uncles, all the Pandavas, I know how to go inside. I don't know how to come out. So Bhima, Yudhishthira, Nakul, Sahadev, all of them said, don't worry. You go in. We'll follow you and we'll break the formation. Dronacharya was the commander-in-chief of Kauravas and he made that formation, Chakravyuh. It's a very interesting piece in history. And Abhimanyu goes inside, young guy, 14 years old that time. And he goes inside, but the formation gets closed very fast and nobody can go in. Inside, he meets all the 6 Maharathis. Bhishma, Drona, sorry, Bhishma was not there, but Drona and Dushasan and Duryodhana, all these people were there, Karna, and all of them, one by one, killed him. The 6 people assassinated Abhimanyu. He got killed. He could never come out. So this is referred to as our human condition. Is we are thrown into this world, being born into this world, and we are not trained how to live it. We just get inside. You have to go to school, you go to school, and all the school education, if you see, or college education for that matter, is nothing but servile education. Servile education means, what will I get if I study? Every time the people, what will I get if I study? Nobody does it because I love to study. What will I get? So it's called servile education. whole education system goes, then I have to get a job, then I have to get married, then I have to have children. There is no time at all for self improvement, self assessment of one's own life. We keep on going inside without any manual, and then we get destroyed. This is what's happening. Majority. So majority of people who are listening to lectures or scriptures or studies, how many of them really have this hunger, what we call mumukshatva, to liberate oneself from all anxiety and fear? It's hardly there. It's a temporary situation. When at present I am agitated, I am looking out for a solution. Once the solution comes and the agitation goes down a little, the first thing I do is give up the knowledge. That's how people live. So when we are in the world, and I have been taught to follow my likes and dislikes, I've been taught to follow that money should be the focus of my attention, all these concepts, and it turns and makes me more and more agitated. Such an agitated person, body fails, emotionally the mind goes, and you are directed either to a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a physical exercise, yoga and all, and eventually to a master. That if you listen, if you read these books, if you listen to these lectures, if you listen to these so-called great men, big, big ashrams, maybe your life can turn into better. And in that hope, they go. They really try to do it. And once they listen to these lectures, what happens is they say, my God, it is so simple. It is so simple not to get agitated. Then why am I getting agitated? I should never give power to the world to agitate me. Sorrows there shall be in the world, but suffering is optional. Sorrows there shall be in the world, but suffering is optional. There will be problems, but should I suffer for it? I choose not to suffer for it. Come what may, I'll find a solution to all the problem thrown at me, but I will never get agitated. Now, with this knowledge, when it's internalized, you have got a tremendous amount of confidence. Now your life is much better than what it was a week, months, years back. You reflect and say, my God, why I was crying so much? Why I was getting so disturbed? I have no idea. Let the problems come now. Now I know how to face it. As soon as you get discomfortable, the next step starts. Now, since you know how to get out of agitation, stress, tensions, you would like to share this knowledge with everyone. You would like to share it with everybody. And we start sharing. Now, this is where the problem starts. No knowledge is dangerous. Incomplete knowledge is more dangerous. Andam tama pravishyanti ye vidya upasate. One of the Upanishads is said. Those people who are living in ignorance are in darkness. Those people who are living in so-called knowledge are perhaps into greater darkness. So what? It looks like they are into greater darkness. Why? Because I know and they don't know. Therefore, I want to share. It is for these people that the subsequent verse is there. We'll chant the verse. न बुद्धि भेदम जनये अज्ञानां कर्म संगिनां झोषयेत् सर्वकर्माणि विद्वान् युक्तः समाचरन्. Let not the wise man unsettle the minds of ignorant who are attached to action. Acting united with the self, let him render all his actions attractive. I want to share this knowledge. Yes. To whom? Share this knowledge to people who have an understanding and interest for this knowledge. Don't, so first thing we do is we look at all our relatives who are staying in the house. Everybody should have the knowledge of Vedanta. One person came and told our teacher, Swamiji, that Swamiji, Vedanta is such a beautiful knowledge. I think everybody should be a Vedantin. Vedantin means a person who's understood and lived the subject of Vedanta. He said it's like saying everybody should be a carpenter. Everybody should be a cobbler. Everybody should be, because it can't be. The whole world is a heterogeneous variety of beings. So what we do is, as soon as I get the knowledge, I push on into a near and dear ones. Remember, this is because you genuinely care about them. So there's nothing wrong with it. It's perfectly natural. When a mother gets sweets for Diwali sweets or something, the first thing she thinks about is how can she share it with her children, her husband. That attitude is natural. So nothing wrong with that. But the Shastra says, don't give. Don't give, especially those people where you don't know how are they going to receive. That's where this verse is. Let not the wise person unsettle the minds of the ignorant. Who are these ignorant people? Ignorant people who are attached to action. If I do this, I should do this. If I do this, I should do this. Constantly thinking about the same thing. Nothing beyond that. They don't have any higher goal in life. They are just doing as routine what is going on. Such people may sit and listen to you too. But then the pressure of their vasanas is so much, so extreme, that even after listening, they will come to a conclusion. All this is very good, sir, but now life has to be a little practical, and they'll escape. To such people, leave them. Don't push it. Anything forced is never forceful. It's a beautiful line in Vedanta treatise by our teacher. Anything forced is never forceful. Don't push it in. Don't give knowledge where they don't deserve, or where they are not ready. I won't say deserve, where they are not mentally ready to take in that knowledge. Else, like Jesus says, don't cast pearls before swines. Swines means pigs. Don't cast pearls of knowledge before swines, lest they trample all over it and then turn back and rend you to pieces. You give knowledge to them, they don't understand, they will finish you off. So don't start talking about what you have learned and heard. That's where the most important aspect of any relationship, as far as Vedanta is concerned, the one and only one point is assessment of the other person. Whether the other person is capable, assessing people around you, assessing the climate around you, assessing the town around you, assessing the government which you have. You have to assess everybody and then deal with them accordingly. Otherwise, finished. Hmm? Don't give it knowledge like this, which becomes very dangerous. There was this one boy, he read a book, and in that book it is said, God is nowhere but within us. God is nowhere within us. So when he was reading, he understood that yes, God is within me. It is not in these idols, temples. So he had a younger brother. His younger brother must be in seventh or eighth or something. So, and every day he had a ritual in the evening to put some agarbatti, some diya, some devotional thing. And he would do some japa and Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya or Om Namah Shivaya, or Hare Krishna, any of these things, Amme Narayana, Lakshmi Narayana, Vani Narayana, Bhadre Narayana. So something, some chants like that. 15 minutes he used to do, closing his eyes, putting the diya and agarbatti and all. This boy, since he read from this book, there is no God except within you. If you are not, it is difficult to find happiness within oneself, but it is impossible to find it anywhere else. Arthur Schopenhauer. So This attitude, God is within me. He told to the brother, what are you doing, wasting your time with this dig, 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 dig and ringing and all before God? Are God is not there in the photograph. It is inside you. You understand God inside you and you don't need these rituals. And the younger brother did that. Next day onwards, he stopped all the rituals. Evening, he stopped the whole thing. And no agarbatti, nothing was there anymore. And that time, he spent with his friends. And he started smoking, drinking, everything ulta. Somebody is doing something. Somebody is following a particular thing which gives them a little bit of peace of mind in this madhouse of the world. We would like, in the name of knowledge, to steal that too. Why? I used to take children's classes before. She's staying in 6th floor. So she came home, went to her house, and entered the house, and she took that idol and told the father that she's going to throw it away because God is not there. And she threw it from the 6th floor. A Ganpati idol, she threw on the 6th floor. And the father was an atheist, so he was very happy. He said, good, good, good. There is no God in the stone idols and all this. And she came to the class and she proudly said, you know, sir, I saw this movie and they said there should be no idol worship. So I threw that Ganpati idol out of the window. I said, wow, very good, beta, very intelligent. First thing I've learned in life is never to disagree with anybody. Sir, I think you are the best person. Yes, you are correct. Sir, I think so. You're the worst fool in the planet. Yes, you are correct. Don't discuss anything. I said, excellent, beta, very good. I'll just ask you one thing. Huh? Where is God? So God is inside me. Very good. So God is inside you. God is inside me also? Yes. So God is inside your sister also? Yes. God is inside in your parents also? Yes. God is inside in my parents also? Yes. Then God is inside in the trees, beta? Yes. Then where is God not there? Then she's thinking. And she's saying, God is everywhere. Correct. Very nice. So when God is everywhere, why couldn't you see the God in the statue? And she realized. So that must be God in there also. God is there everywhere. You only told me. There's not. This is how we destroy people's thinking. Please don't get me wrong. I'm not saying to go into rituals and not. I'm not getting into that. I'm just saying that to each one, their standard of mental balance is different. When a 5-year-old comes and asks me, sir, is there Xmas, Father Santa Claus? Because I know, no, I've been a very good son, and I've been at home, and Father Santa Claus will come to my house and he will give me the gifts. Is there, na? The Santa Claus is there, na? 5-year-old, 4-year-old child. I can't say there is no Santa Claus. Don't worry. This is only your parents giving. No. Yes, Santa Claus is there. He comes. Provided you are a good child. Were you a good child? All the children will say yes. Then Santa Claus will come and give you to each age group according to that. Never unsettle the minds of, especially a wise person. No, this is not the way to let them do it. Try to suggest. So how do you go about it? Changing. But sir, there is so many things going wrong in the world. If so many things are going wrong, I should just keep quiet. Did I tell you to keep quiet? No. Don't keep quiet. Then what do I do? How should I bring in the change? Because I want to make the world a better place where there is no racism, where there is no casteism, where there is none of these things which tell me I am lower, you are higher, or you are lower and I am better than you. Nothing. I want a world where everybody lives peacefully. Everyone. Should we not dream of that world? Yes, you should. How do I go about it? The next slide. How do you go about changing the whole world? Let not the wise man unsettle the minds of the ignorant. United, acting united, ignorant, attached to action. Those people who are attached to action because they can't get out of the action. They need to be there. Acting united with the self. Beautiful line. Acting united with the self. Self represents the supreme reality, that divinity which is within you. Here, self, the highest, is called the supreme reality, Brahman. At the lower point, it is called higher ideal in life, a higher goal in life. Higher ideal. So when you move around higher ideal, you say that I am not going to live my life based on selfish interest. X amount of life I have lived, just thinking about what is happening in my life. But the way for me to grow as a human being is to help others too, if possible. If possible, at least the thought, at least the thought. There's this beautiful poem called On His Blindness by John Milton, where Milton, it's a sonnet. Sonnet means it's a 14-line poem. The first 7 lines, Milton, as you know, was blind, the physically challenged, visually challenged. So as he reads the first 7 lines, the first 7 lines is, why did God deny me that power of sight when he gave me the talent of writing a poetry? Because my inspiration is supposed to be the world. My inspiration is supposed to be the sunrise, sunset, mountains, forest, flowers. If that is not there, complete darkness, how am I going to write a poem? Why did God do this to me in spite of giving me the talent? And the next 7 lines, please read this. It's a beautiful poem. The next 7 lines is God's answer to Milton. He says, Milton, and the last line, his state is kingly. Thousands of birds and animals are moving according to his will. That his will is God's will. They also serve who stand and wait. At present, I am not being able to serve, but I got the potential to serve. One day I will. Even that attitude is big enough. What can I do for you? Simple thing. I'm not talking about big things. Simple, higher ideal, and the highest is to do every action, whatever action you are in that field of activity, try to do it to perfection. After the action, don't think about the fruits, but do it what you want to do perfectly in whatever way. It is said that Lord Krishna, when he was doing Yudhishthir was doing the Rajasuya Yagya, he took the job himself to look after the chappals of the guests. And the story is the way he kept the chappals so beautifully, sandals, that nobody wanted to go inside. God taking care of chappals, literally. So acting united with the self, higher ideal, a higher vision in life. Can this life be used for some purpose? When I am a wick, a bati, in English it's called wick, and that wick is burning, then it burns very fast. Extremely fast it burns. The life of the wick is short-lived. But when the wick is dipped in the oil, which is the higher knowledge, and then you burn the wick, nothing happens to the wick. And it sustains and gives more light than before to the surrounding areas. But it doesn't burn. Why? Because it is living for a higher cause. Render all the actions attractive. Attractive means do whatever needs to be done to the best of the ability. Best of whatever it is you're doing, do it to the best. Sri Ramachandra, when he came to know from Vishwamitra that there is this Shiva Dhanush, big Shiva Dhanush in Janaka's place, He wanted to see it. I just want to see it because it is from Lord Shiva. The humility of that man, himself being an avatar, saying, my God, Shiva's Dhanush, I want to see it. It's a pious thing. I want to see it. And when he comes there, he doesn't even know that Sita, those who break the bow will get Sita. He has no idea and no interest. He just goes there as a prince. And when everybody has tried lifting the Dhanush it's a huge, bring 16 wheels carried carriage and all. Nobody can lift it. Then Rama says to Vishwamitra, can I just go and have a look, please? It's Shiva's Dhanush. I want to see. Janaka says, please, everybody tried, you also try. And he goes there and he sees this magnificent bow. The first thing he does is just pronounce. If you see people who play kabaddi and many sports, as far as Indians are concerned, we always touch the ground. Everything starts with a prayer. Everything in India starts with a prayer. It's supposed to, if it is not supposed to. So he bows to the bow and then he picks up the bow as if it was a toy. As if it was a toy. And he tries to string it. Nobody has even tried to lift it. He tries to string it. And the strength of Rama was so much that the Shiva bow broke into two pieces. Humility and strength, but never a show off. Never a show off. This was Rama. So everything you do it for a higher goal. Each and every avatara, whether it is Vishnu, whether it is Krishna, whether it is Rama, whether it is Varaha, whether it is Vamana, all the avatars are born for only one reason. Devi, Durga Mata, all these matas, you see the stories, born for one reason, killing an asura. Durga Mata killed Mahisasura. And asura means anything negative to be destroyed. How? By this person. Live a higher goal in life. Don't allow people to stay in ignorance. Educate when asked. So when you have a personality that is attractive, why? Because you are enjoying life. This verse is very important because many parents, many teachers have come to us and said that when the children's class go on, parents are saying, sir, I don't know, the child never listens to me or to any other teachers. But when they come to people like you, especially you, they are so happy and they listen to everything. You say, don't watch TV for 3 days. They stop watching TVs for 3 days. How do they do that? Children are attracted to genuinity and cheerfulness. You show children, in fact, I'll give you a trade secret. This trade secret, okay? The trade secret is when you are happy within yourself, you don't want to change the world. You are cheerful, seeing the positive sides of life, automatically the world will change for the better. You will attract positiveness. Just a higher goal. Don't live for yourself. Never think about what am I getting, why am I not getting. If the result is not commensurate to the effort, all you can do is change the process until you get the desired result. That's all right. But never get agitated, never get angry, never get upset. This did not happen. So if this happened, so what? Ram Tirtha puts it beautifully in Hindi. Gar ye hua to kya hua, gar wo hua to kya hua. If this happened, so what? If that happened, so what? There's this beautiful story of a boy called Ryan. It's a true story in Canada. So if you go to Google and type Ryan's Well, R-Y-A-N, Ryan's Well, there's a Ryan's Well organization. So he's got a story. He was sitting in a class, 5th or 6th standard, where his teacher was talking about there is no water in so many places. They have to walk 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers for one pot of water. So this Ryan says that why can't they have water? They don't have water. Can't they make wells? Well, of course they can make it, but they don't have money, beta. But how much money is required? I'm just giving an arbitrary number. I don't know the exact amount. So how much money is required? It's around $2,500. But the story is true. He says, all right. He goes home and he tells his father, Dad, I want $2,500. He's in Canada. So the father says, 2,500. He's intelligent enough. He says, okay, but why? So no, because I want to build a well in one of the villages in Africa. Father said, okay, no problem, you can do it. But if I am giving you, then it's my money, right? Then I am contributing. What is your contribution? What are you giving? So the boy of 6 and 7, he says, what can I do? I am a small boy. I don't know how to earn. So the father says, do one thing. Do small chores in the house, small work here and there. Every half an hour you work, I'll give you $5 or $10. He said, okay. And he started working in his own house, washing vessels, cleaning the garage, doing everything. And for every half an hour work, the father and mother would give him $5, $10, whatever it is. And after months, he went back to the school, to the geography session teacher, and gave that 2,500 and said that, here. He said, what is this for? He said, you said there is no well, there's no water. This is to build a well in Africa. He said, yeah, but you need pipes to connect, right? To each house from the well. So Ryan looks at the teacher and says, so how much more should I collect? It's at least 6,500, some figure. He says, all right. And he goes back. The teacher calls him and says, from where did you get this 2,500? He said, I worked in my house. So from where are you going to get the other money, balance money? He said, I'll work in some people's houses. And he left. The teacher called the father, and the father and the teacher and a few people made together an organization called Ryan's Well. The whole school got involved, and each and every student in that school worked in their own house, collected money to make well. Started by one 6-year-old boy. Ultimately, he was interviewed by one of the leading persons, interviewers, and they said, Ryan, do you know? By the time he was 14 years old, so Ryan, do you know how much money you have in the bank? He said, small gaggly boy. He says, no. You got around $1.4 million. Everybody, oh my God, 14-year-old boy's bank balance is $1.4 million. And he just smiles. And the lady is asking, so what are you going to do with the money? And his beautiful answer, perhaps build few more wells. Perhaps build few more wells. This is just one example. Another example is of Terry Fox, where the person has got, Terry Fox is a beautiful movie. I would recommend you to watch it, where a person has got a cancer in his knees. His whole leg is amputated, is cut off. And yet, seeing so many children in the cancer ward who are going to die, 5-year-old, 6-year-old, and they're saying, I want to do this for my next birthday. And the doctors say that we are not even sure whether he or she will make it. Small babies wearing that and having the chemo and everything. He says, I want to do something for them. So with the metal leg, he takes up running. He runs all over Canada. Again, another fellow from Canada. All over Canada, and he collects X amount of money. Through also, if you see the movie, through the snow, through water, through rain, he's just running. All the troubles he's running, whether anybody realizes what he's doing or not, he is going. One time he gets so sick, he's sitting in the van, and his friend Doug asks, do you want to rest? He said, no, we can continue. Just give me 5 minutes rest. He says, Terry, I think you're coming up with something. Better show it to a doctor. He says, no, what will the doctor say? As the doctor said in Vancouver, that run 12 miles a day and not run at all. He was a specialist. The friend is saying, he was a specialist. He says, Terry, you're coming, be careful, you're coming with something. Terry Fox, he just looks, again, his age is 21. He's 21-year-old. He looks at this friend and says, Doug, if I die now, I die happy. How many of us can say that? This is the whole dialogue. Can we live our lives so complete and so full that we can tell ourselves every second and every minute of the day, if I die now, I die happy. That is united with the self. Therefore, when you are united with this higher self, you are not bothered how the world is looking at your actions. You are just not bothered. You are bothered how you are looking at your actions. So every action you are doing, you are morally responsible for that action. So you try to do it brilliantly the best way you can. Not based on what the world is thinking, whether it is good or bad, it really doesn't matter. Have I done the best what I can do? The answer should be yes, every minute of the day. When I live like that, render my each actions attractive. Each action united to the self, beautiful, constantly cheerful. Because I've seen the fun side of life. Automatically, you will attract the change. People will change looking and listening at you. Otherwise, if the change is not within yourself, you can't expect the change in everybody else. It's impossible. Therefore, all the parents, all the teachers, don't sermonize and give preaching of this is what we should do, this is what we should not do. Don't get into that. What is right and anything forced is never forceful. Bring the change. Like Gandhi said, be the change you want to bring it in the society. You be the change and you forget about the society. The world will change. You don't worry about it. 3 people, 4 people around you will maybe are not around you, but somebody else will change. Simple. So we'll go to the next verse now. So Nabuddhi Bhedam is a very, very important verse. And the subsequent verse is extremely beautiful, more important. If possible, get it by heart. Why I'm saying get it by heart? Because you can always say, I know Bhagavad Gita. Mahi sarvani karmani sanyasya adhyatma chetas. I can just recite. This is even to show off to people. At least by heart, you will understand the meaning and then you apply the meaning in your life. So initially make it a ritual. I just want to by heart it. No, but I don't know the meaning. Doesn't matter. Just by heart. And then get into the meaning. Start understanding the meaning. It becomes beautiful. Mayi sarvani karmani sanyasya chetasa Nirashi nirmamo bhutva yudhyasva vigatajvaraha. Mai sarvani karmani sanyasya. Give up all your actions. Renounce all your actions. Renouncing all actions in me to the supreme idol. With thoughts resting in the self, the highest idol. It is not there in the world of give and take. But sir, if you become too good, no, the world will take advantage. Somebody came to our teacher, beautiful line. He came to the teacher and says, sir, you say we should be very charitable to people. We should have a giving heart. But you know, the whole world is basically selfish. They are constantly taking advantage. Everybody wants free. Free toothpaste, free toothbrush, free this, free that, free going into the food, where ashram is there, free food, free lectures. Everybody wants free, sir, but nobody wants to pay. A teacher beautifully said, I can't understand what is your problem. You say you want to give. Life is to give, not to take. You say life is to give and you want to live a life of giving. The whole world wants to take. So what is the problem? No, people will take advantage. then assess people and give accordingly. Doesn't matter. Don't stop giving. You have to give everything. Your attitude should be, what can I do for you? So this is renouncing all. So whatever action you are doing it for the higher. Now, just be very careful. I just want to address this issue. Whenever we say renouncing all actions for the higher, thinking only about the higher, emotion completely involved in the higher, people start thinking and taking spirituality and Vedanta so seriously. Everything has to be, oh, okay. Yeah, get rid of desires, get rid of vasanas. It is the desires that is, he's so serious about it. And the person who is living that life of Vedanta, of the Bhagavad Gita, from whose mouth Bhagavad Gita came, Lord Krishna, show me one photograph where he's sitting like this. Kya kare? Life is like that. Show me one photograph where he's serious. One of the important qualities of a spiritual student is utsaha, enthusiasm in life. If you can't have fun, you are not spiritual. Take it from me. If you can't have fun in life, if you can't enjoy life, you are not spiritual. Because Krishna's life, you see, fun and flourish, dancing around, jumping around, full of life. That attitude has to be there. If that attitude is not there, you are in trouble. You take everything very seriously. And when you take everything, any subject, very seriously and don't do it for the fun of it, you're finished. What is the first thing that spirituality dictates? You have to reduce your ego so that kartritva bhavana, I am doing so much, and bhoktrutva bhavana, I am enjoying, should not be there. Your ego should be, who am I to do anything? Who am I not to do anything? So ego, one of the biggest constituents of ego is having inhibitions. I can't do this. No, I can't do. No, we can't do it. Simple. I went to one of the dance classes. True story. Okay, I'm not going to tell you which dance class. Some dance class I went, and I saw the teacher training beautifully. I also took part in that training. I liked the way he trained. What he did, everybody was dancing very, very Western dance. So they were dancing very beautifully. And he could see that a lot of dancers were very stiff, very seriously doing all the steps. So what he did, he made everybody stand at the far corner of the room. He stood on the other side of the corner and said, all of you, every one of you, one by one, you have to come, give a clap on my hand and go away. That's all. Just walk and come back. So everybody said that, okay. And they started coming. As soon as one person came, he said, listen, sorry, I forgot to tell you. You have to walk like a chimpanzee, making the sound. Come all the way there, give me a high five or something, and then go back. And you should see so many people were there. They could not do it properly because they were not having fun. Walk like this, like a monkey, and you walk all. Idea is to throw your inhibitions away. If you are not having fun in life, you are not living. And anybody who's spiritual, they will have fun. In whatever way you define fun. They will dance, they will sing, they will enjoy. They will be very passionate about life itself. They will not be a dull person. Oh, tomorrow anyway we are going to die. So better remove all the desire. They will not be like that. They will be the other way. Tomorrow I am going to die. Why not make the best use of it today? Why can't I live beautifully? Why can't I make people laugh? Why can't I enjoy? Why can't I make people enjoy? Mai Sarvani. This was a very important point because many people I have seen who have gone into spirituality, they want to meditate, they want to do karma yoga, they want to do bhakti yoga, but they do it so seriously. And truly, honestly, it's extremely boring. Nobody wants a serious person around. You should be full of life, like Krishna. Only a person who is highly spiritual can attain that. So our target is to attain that. Renouncing all actions with thoughts resting in the self, free from hope and attachment. Fight without mental fever. If I continue more, I will not do justice because the time is up. So we'll continue this next class. Remember, have fun. Tonight, after the class, pick up your husband, wife, children, parents, put on music, and just dance like a mad person. Enjoy. Thank you. Oh.